Now, the Trump dossier has been making headlines all over the news, with the salacious and outrageous claims made, buttressed by some of the less salacious but more damning claims. Basically, Donald Trump owned by the Russians. Okay. However, those claims seem to have a couple of issues with it. Some, of course, taken by the Intercept's Glenn Greenwald, but also, surprisingly, in some of the mainstream corporate media. Now, there's actually a great article out there by Margaret Sullivan. Now, Margaret Sullivan is a media columnist for the Washington Post. Now, basically, she makes the argument that Buzzfeed was being journalistically irresponsible for releasing this dossier on Donald Trump. And she kind of breaks down the reasons why. Now, she said in her opening statement, she said that this is just a bunch of scurrilous allegations dressed up as an intelligence report meant to damage Donald Trump. Again, amazing. This is from the Washington Post. Okay. Now, look, I gotta agree with her assessment. Nothing that I've seen in this dossier is backed up by any sort of shred of actual evidence. And don't get me wrong, I'm having a lot of fun with, P-Gate, right? I don't like Donald Trump. I don't like the Republicans. But you know what I like better? I like facts. I like sticking to the facts, and I like sticking to journalistic principles of actually reporting truth. So there you go. Now, in reality, Sullivan and Greenwald both make the case that by releasing this, you end up damaging the media far more than what you would damage Donald Trump. And what you need to do if you're going to release something like this, well, you've got to release something, you've got to release evidence to back it up. And that evidence seems to be missing in this entire thing. So you might be wondering, okay, well, look, why did BuzzFeed release this? Well, there's actually a lot of reasons. One of them might have to do with clicks and profit, obviously. But according to Ben Smith, who is the managing editor over at BuzzFeed, he said this. He actually said, when in doubt, publish. Okay, but look, BuzzFeed isn't exactly a huge journalistic outlet anyway, as far as true journalism, okay? Now, Sullivan goes on to point out in her article that no, what we actually want to do, what real outlets that care about journalism do, is that they say, when in doubt, leave it out. Basically, practice some caution. Like, if you doubt the veracity of the claims made in this intelligence report or whatever you're getting from your sources, well, you don't just publish it. No, you hold on to it, you investigate it, you look into this, and make sure that what you're saying, what you're putting out there to the people is actual truth, and not just a bunch of lies, or a bunch of made up, and I hate using it, the phrase here, but fake news. Now, there is a lot of doubt in this report. And not just from the right. I mean, the right obviously is like, no, nothing in here. Like, nothing you guys say, anything is true. You're all fake news. But there's also a lot of questions coming from the left. And they're actually saying, well, now, wait a minute. We're not just going to call this fake news outright. Where's your evidence? Where's your proof? And that's the side that I'm on. Okay? Because look, this alleges deep ties between Donald Trump and Russia, along with, of course, the weird sex scandal stuff. Okay? Look, I wouldn't be surprised if any of that is true. I mean, Donald Trump does have a lot of conflicts of interest when it comes to Russia. And Rex Tillerson seems like a gift to Russia because, again, Rex Tillerson in ExxonMobil, well, they have a half of $1 billion, like $500 billion, $500 million deal with Russia that was stopped by President Obama's sanctions. But anyway, again, I have an issue with how the information was obtained. I have an issue with the sourcing. And that's a lot of what we don't know. Now, Sullivan goes back to write in this article. She said, in this case, the doubt should have prevailed. News organizations and government officials have known for months about this information. They've essentially been sitting on it, right? She says if it can be even called information. But despite many attempts, the claims about Trump's behavior and relationships in Russia could not be verified. So they have this information, they're sitting on it, they're looking into it, and they're like, I can't find any proof. This would be great if we could find some proof. Boy, well, this would be a bombshell story. But again, we don't have anything to corroborate. So that's a big issue, right? Now, again, that's like because they couldn't find that proof, they sat on this for months. Okay. Now, the closest this got to getting out here before now was back in October, when the source that came up with this, that wrote this whole report, convinced David Corn of Mother Jones magazine to write about it. But even David Corn was like, I'm not going to write all these details because some of this stuff is so outlandish and we don't have proof of it. We're not really going to say it, write the whole thing. Okay. He didn't publish the specifics because he could not verify. So now for a little bit more context here, I'm going to switch over to a different article, and this is from Glenn Greenwald of The Intercept. Now, Greenwald writes that back in October, this political operative and former employee of the British intelligence agency MI6 was being paid by Democrats to dig up dirt on Donald Trump. And before he was digging up dirt on Donald Trump for the Democrats, he was actually digging up dirt for the Republicans that were against Donald Trump. Okay. Now, look, when it comes to opposition research, I've got no problem with that. I think that's healthy. I think that's something that all political campaigns will do. And that's fine. That's fine. What I have an issue with is not being able to back up information with proof. Okay? I'm about proof. And again, that's why these news organizations, they sat on this information, this report, for months and months and months. These were just nothing but anonymous claims backed up with no actual factual sources. No evidence. Instead, what it did, Greenwald points out that it relied on a chain of other anonymous sources in Russia that this agent claims told him about the escapades that Donald Trump was up to when he was in Russia. Again, you've got this chain of anonymous sources. I heard from this guy, who heard from this guy, who heard from that guy, who heard from his mother's uncle, his aunt's brother. Dude, that is not intelligence. That is not a good source for these kinds of claims. But again, that's what we're doing. Now, not only that, but the report stylistically was actually riddled with typos, misspellings, geographical errors. All this stuff contributed into making it look incredibly sketchy. And that's exactly what it is. And then, of course, there are parts about this report that have just been just recently disproven. Now, one of the allegations, of course, is that Donald Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, went to go meet Russian agents while in Prague. Now, that is something that Michael Cohen and Donald Trump have both rightly denied. In fact, you heard him talking about that during the presser, okay? Now, it turns out, again, they're right about this. One of the few things Donald Trump's actually not lying about, okay? In fact, the Wall Street Journal reported that the FBI had found no evidence that Michael Cohen traveled to the Czech Republic. He did not go to Prague. Part of this report has already been proven to be false. Why should we believe any of the other stuff that hasn't had any shred of evidence to back it up? We should not. And again, because of these claims, journalistic outlets would not initially touch it. In fact, the New York Times editor Dean Backett told Glenn Greenwald that, quote, he would not publish these totally unsubstantiated allegations because, quote, we, like others, investigated the allegations and haven't corroborated them, and we felt that we're not in the business of publishing things that we can't stand by. Now, that's what they said before. What changed? Why are they now releasing this? Why are they now talking about this as if this is almost gospel? Well, one reason could be John McCain. John McCain is reported to have been the person who went to the FBI and said, hey, you got to look at this report, man. This is some crazy stuff. I mean, somebody caught Donald Trump getting some golden showers up in there. Like, we got to do something. We got to report this. You got to report this. Well, look, again, there's no evidence to corroborate. They already knew about this. But again, here's John McCain saying something to the intelligence agencies, and now the intelligence agencies are now, giving it back to the media. And so here we have this evidence or this report that has no evidence, but now it's being backed up by powerful people that are now spreading it around, spreading it to the media, and now it's this big thing. But again, there's nothing new in this. There's nothing credible in this. And it could not be proven. But regardless, Ben Smith published it, and look, pardon the pun, he opened the floodgates. Now, back to Sullivan's article. Now, she notes that Ben Smith said that publishing this dossier reflects on how we see the job of reporters in 2017. In other words, readers are grown-ups and deserve to be treated as such, not paternalistically protected from information that might upset them. Okay, she also says true enough to that point, but it avoids a larger point. This is a bad idea, and always has been a bad idea, to publish unverified smears. And of course, all credit to Talking Points memo Josh Marshall, who's also a very big establishment Democrat, who said, quote, "I would say in reviewing extremely raw intel, people should retain their skepticism even if they rightly think Donald Trump is the worst," which I do. And as much as I would like to believe that Donald Trump is a complete Russian stooge, and look, he's got the conflicts of interest, certainly when it comes to Russia, when it comes to business dealings and practices, nonetheless, you're going to have to back up your information with facts and evidence. Or what you're going to do is you're going to feed into this fake news narrative. And that is a big issue that we have today. And what you're doing when you publish this stuff without doing a disclaimer, hey, by the way, this is all completely unverified, uncorroborated. There's no evidence to back up this up. I just thought this was interesting. If you don't do that, you're hurting journalism. Okay, if you're putting it out there without any of that, at least you are hurting journalism. You are helping Donald Trump. And that's probably the worst. Okay? Now, ironically, Ben Smith also says in that same memo, he says there is serious reason to doubt these allegations. But even so, that did not stop people in the corporate media and a lot of Democrats from swallowing this story without question. Greenwald writes, quote, "There's a real danger here that this maneuver can harshly backfire. As I was saying earlier, this is hurting journalism. This will hurt journalism. This will hurt actual mainstream news outlets that do actual reporting." He said that this maneuver can backfire to the great benefit of Trump and to the detriment of those who want to oppose him. If any of the significant claims in this dossier turn out to be provably false, such as Cohen's trip to Prague, many people will conclude, with Trump's encouragement, that large media outlets, CNN and Buzzfeed, and anti-Trump factions within the government, the CIA, are deploying fake news to destroy him. In the eyes of many people, that will forever discredit, render impotent future journalistic exposés that are based on actual, corroborated wrongdoing. And finally, Sullivan writes, and this is another great point to end on here. She said that it's never been acceptable to publish rumor and innuendo. And none of the circumstances surrounding this episode, not CNN's story, not Trump's dubious history with Russia, not the fact that the intelligence community made a report on it, should change that ethical rule. And to that, I've got to say that both of these pieces were excellent. And they talk about the dangers of publishing a report like this without evidence. Again, as much as I despise Donald Trump, I hate the idea of publishing unverified information from sources that cannot be confirmed or corroborated. And my thing is, look, I'm a progressive, okay? And as a progressive person who is actually also a part of new media, I believe that we have a duty to be the watchers on the wall against bullcrap, against this kind of crap. Whether it comes from Breitbart or Buzzfeed, the truth is nonpartisan, okay? And you've got to remember that you have to check and verify your sources. You've got to make sure that you're doing your due diligence and not publishing crap, because the other side will use that against you. So you have to remember, if you're at all interested in the truth, you have to remember that. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent, non-corporate media, go to our Patreon page and become a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation.